I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. So excited to be here with you guys for a wonderful show. We have people joining us who are working on all sorts of different issues that are also, of course, related, but it's really exciting because there's a lot of variety. And also they're joining us from different places, geographically speaking. Before we start the show, though, please do remember to hit the thumbs up. That is giving the show a like. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And to do that, you just press subscribe and then you press the bell. Also, please do become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. If you join at the $5 a month level, you get access to all sorts of bonus content, extended interviews, and early release, which is really great. If you can't pull that off, but you still want to support the show, you can do that at the $1 a month level. So that's literally $12 a year. But the $5 a month level is less than 25 cents a day, Monday through Friday. Yes, that's what it is. Brad has done the math. We have an amazing show for you today. And we are going to be speaking to in reverse order. So our final guest of the night is the great award-winning journalist Samira Mohyeddin, who we've had on before. And she's going to talk to us about Iran, about Gaza, about media complicity and genocide, and about so much more. And we're going to also talk about this great guy, Jesse Brown from Canada Land, who used to have be a good podcast host and now has become an insufferable bigot. So again, really excited to be speaking to Samira. Before we speak to Samira, we are going to be speaking to the Australian filmmaker, award-winning filmmaker, Juliet Lamont. She is a filmmaker and playwright and poet, and she was just on the Gaza Flotilla trying to break the siege of Gaza. And she, like so many of the other participants, was abused physically and sexually. So she's going to be talking to us about that. And our first guest, though, so excited to be talking to, is Lawrence Grandpre, who is a political commentator at Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, which is a grassroots think tank which advocates the public policy interests of Black people in Baltimore through youth leadership development and political advocacy and autonomous intellectual innovation. So welcome to the show, Lawrence.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Of course. So you have a fascinating story that you've been focusing on and using kind of as an opportunity for important political education. It's pretty juicy. I mean, it should be getting a lot more media than it is getting, considering it involves scandal, it involves blackmail, it involves spying, it involves well, maybe Zionism, racism don't make it that juicy. Maybe for us, we like that. That's exciting for us because we're on the nerdier end. But there's a lot of stuff that would make it very big in the news headlines, and yet it's not. So set up this story, what's happening and why it's so important.
Yeah, again, thank you for having me. So my organization, we work in the state of Maryland, especially in the city of Baltimore. This is a majority Black city. We're not a nonprofit. Made a potential decision not be a nonprofit so we could focus on things like electoral campaigns when needed. And that's very useful because we have an issue in Northwest Baltimore. It's a particular state Senate district, the 41st district. Majority Black, 65% Black, 25% white. But this is also the home of many historically a large Jewish population, specifically a political machine that is specifically Orthodox Jewish. So not the entire Jewish population, but a particular conservative Orthodox Jewish population, including the former head of AIPAC, Howard Friedman. So these folks in this majority Black district have for years used political donations, including like $50K to United for Democracy Project, but also picking like folks from the Orthodox Jewish community to run and win in this majority Black district backed by this money. So
and also just really quickly wanted to add, as you know, but I want to make sure other people know about this. You know, we've had guests on the show who are Orthodox anti-Zionist rabbis, right? So this is a particular within the Orthodox community, a particular community within that community.
And particularly conservative Democrats. And again, so these are all Democrats, and this will be important because this is intra-Democratic Party politics. Right. So the state Senate seat has been pretty solid in this district in terms of it being Black, and particularly a Black freedom fighter named Jill Carter. She's the daughter of Walter Carter, the former head of Baltimore Congress of Racial Equality. So coming out of a Black movement tradition. So after 2020, she had been deeply attacked by the Democratic machine, Martin O'Malley, conservative Democrats. But 2020, she starts to get the recognition she deserved the whole time, passing police reform, passing youth justice reform. And this political machine of conservative, Democrat, Orthodox, Jewish folks, especially the money, wanted to basically consolidate control over this majority Black district. So one of their prime weapons in this work is Sinclair Media, David Smith. Howard Friedman's actually on the board of Sinclair Media, and they're viciously attacking Jill, claiming that she's soft on crime, and they want to get that Senate seat. So what they did was, we don't have special elections when you step down, if you get a new job, if you're indicted, which happens a lot, unfortunately, in Maryland. We don't have special elections. We have a Democratic Party State Central Committee, which is an elected office, but in the Democratic Party that people vote for. So the city council person, Gitzi Schleifer, part of this political machine, ran an all-white, largely Orthodox Jewish, conservative Democratic slate to basically take over the State Central Committee with the hopes of replacing Jill Carter. And Jill organized a counter slate, including racially diverse liberal Jewish folks and Black folks, to counter that move. And we saw that it was successful. So this State Central Committee that determines the replacement was majority Black. When Senator Carter stepped down, she got a job in the Westmore administration. But still, the conservative Orthodox Jewish Senate delegate, Dalia Attar, was chosen by the State Central Committee to be the state representative Senate-wise for this district. And one of these folks on the State Central Committee is the son of the former head of AIPAC. His name is Alex Friedman. Right, so obviously Black folks are really frustrated. We see it as our seat. This is a political backdoor deal. It felt like a lot of ways. We have a delegate who's a civil rights attorney, Malcolm Ruff, and he got appointed as well. So we got him through the State Central Committee by a lot of hard work. But basically, it's like, Malcolm, you got to run for Senate. And so that's what's happening. Malcolm Ruff is running against Dalia Attar.
Okay.
Because she has a lot of money. She's an incumbent. She's well known. We were anticipating a very tough race. But this is where the scandal comes in. So in October last year, there was a federal indictment listing 3 people, Dalia Attar, her brother, and a police officer, claiming that they blackmailed a former aide of former delegate, now State Senator Dalia Attar. And the story is, this delegate had a falling out with Senator Attar. And if you read the WhatsApp messages in the federal indictment, there was concern that this former staffer would speak badly of Delegate Attar, specifically that she was too anti-police, too pro-police reform. So that just shows you the logic of racialized social control that we think connects Zionism to anti-Black oppression, that would be what they were afraid of. And they were so afraid of it that, again, it's alleged,
Sure.
Afraid of just people, that they alleged that the police officer, in conversation with the brother and Senator Attar, hatched a plan to hide recording devices in the home of someone who this aide was having an affair with a married man with. So they record them having sex, and then they use these videos to threaten this person, saying, do not say anything bad about Dalia in this upcoming election, or we will not only release these videos. What they say in the indictment is we will send them to matchmakers in Israel so that your children in Israel cannot find partners because the shame will be so great for you. So that's the level of psychological violence that's alleged that applies in this scheme. So again, it's all kind of shaken out. Like, we've been very adamant about organizing the anti-Zionist community around this local race because we see so much energy going at the national level. But this political machine is pushing tough on crime policies that, even citations needed, talked about Sinclair Media talking about Black youth, very similar to how they talk about Palestinian youth, and that all they know is violence, all they understand is social control and disproportionate force. And we have this tough on crime state's attorney, which, even though he is the state's attorney and a law and order Democrat, supported Dalia Attar because he is tied to the same political network. So for us, there's a deep connection directly, given that Howard Friedman's on the board of Sinclair Media, between anti-Black tough on crime politics and this vision of racialized social control tied to Zionism. So I think this is a good opportunity for your audience to see that link, and us trying to organize some of the anti-Zionist folks to see this local race as something that's in their benefit to push on.
Right. So let's just take a look at this a video that lays out this story so people can follow some of the characters, and it is pretty hard to follow. But let's take a look at this news story.
Attar, her brother, and a Baltimore police officer face federal charges of conspiracy and extortion. According to charging documents, they conspired to secretly record two people having an affair in 2020 and 2021. The three are members of the Baltimore Orthodox Jewish community. It accuses them of threatening to show the video to the Jewish community to damage the victims' marriages and their children's future marriage prospects, all to protect Attar's election chances. The officer, Kalman Finkelstein, had his police powers suspended in 2022. BPD is reviewing this indictment. Attar is also a former Baltimore City prosecutor. In a statement, Attar tells us, quote, "The case centers on the allegations of my former disgruntled employee. We have yet to see any tangible evidence to support the claim that I knew of any illegal actions taken on my behalf."
Okay, so no one's denying that there was this spying done, right? It's just she's basically saying it wasn't for my sake. I didn't know about it. I just had a very enthusiastic staff.
That's exactly what I thought she would say. I would say that we haven't wanted to talk a ton about the scandal because it is very salacious. But if you read the federal indictment and read the WhatsApp messages, I was personally stunned because I thought that she would have plausible deniability. She does not have plausible deniability from the messages I've seen. She specifically says, if you have that video, now might be a good time to use it. She says things of that ilk in the actual federal indictment. So if you don't read the indictment, you can believe that story. If you read the indictment, it does not stand up.
Right. So what is the connection between this tough on crime legislation, these tough on crime politics, and Zionism?
So again, this is something that, again, we're actually having a big kerfuffle now that, again, like we're actually making these arguments, and there are a lot of folks in the Jewish community that almost like you could touch a watch to it, accusing us of anti-Semitism.
Of course, yeah.
This is not even like a Jews control the media thing. This is like a specific person who is a Zionist.
Right.
Produces a Zionist agenda through their relationship to a very powerful media entity, which is Sinclair Media. And this is a political machine. So just for example, there is a no contact order with the three people who are charged and someone named Ronnie Rosenbluth. Ronnie Rosenbluth is a member of the State Central Committee. He is also a member of the Shomrim, the specifically Jewish Community Watch Group, which had like a Trayvon Martin style incident a few years back where they were accused of accosting a black kid walking through the Jewish neighborhood. But more importantly, he's the owner of Tove Pizza, a pizza shop, which is a known hub, like a political shop for this political machine. So if folks remember the guy Jack Abramoff, who was a crooked lobbyist under a Republican Zionist lobbyist for the Bush administration, when he got out of jail, he was on work release. And where did he go on work release? He went to Tove Pizza for his work release. So this is she calls herself like a compassionate conservative Democrat. She's like, I'm a prosecutor. I saw the kids. They weren't getting what they need. But she's tied to not just Republicans, but Jack Abramoff used the money he got from lobbying to fund sniper rifles and sniper lessons for settlers in the West Bank. So that's like pretty hardcore settler, like Zionist violence.
Right.
But I think more generally, the political ideology of racialized social control, of using overwhelming force to secure space, and similarly ties to things like gentrification. Like these folks support policing, not just because they believe in policing, but they believe in if we want to move gentrifiers into Baltimore, those gentrifiers want to see a lot of policing. They want to see tough on crime policies. I think when you talk about Gaza Lago and sort of the economic development policies in Israel, this violence isn't just violence. It's violence to secure settler space, to secure like people moving back into these communities, very similar to how many people feel gentrifiers see Baltimore. It must be secured to violence. Over there is the military, here's policing. And then you have people moved in. So like the police officer they mentioned who was indicted, he got arrested for like driving recklessly and crashing into black folks like repeatedly, right? So this notion of police impunity is something very similar to Israeli soldier impunity because they operate of a political agenda that has very, very powerful people believing that impunity is part of what's needed to control what they see as innately savage violence all around them. So again, for us, it's directly related. But what we even have the former state senator, Joe Carter, being accused of being anti-Semitic for talking about like this political machine and this media machine impacting her and her community. And again, it's like, this is not an abstract thing. Howard Freeman, the former head of AIPAC, is on the board of Sinclair Media. And this is the people that export right-wing local news all over the country. It happen to be based in Baltimore. So we think this is very, very important because, you know, Sinclair uses Baltimore as a testing ground for the racist propaganda they ship nationwide. So we think that sort of Zionist logic then implicates local politics all over the country. So we do think this kind of becomes a national story, given that this involves the former head of AIPAC and this media machine of Sinclair that he's directly tied to.
Yeah, and you know, just some interesting things about her political record. So when it comes to crime, she voted against a bill that would allow. She voted against a bill that would allow school resource officers to carry guns in Baltimore schools. But she also supported a bill that would allow Johns Hopkins University to have its own private police force. She also voted for a bill that would require, she introduced a bill that would require incarceration for violent offenders with open warrants. What else is the thing something else I want to point out? She was very litigious, very aggressive and vindictive when it came to something. This is an insane story. So Zainab Chowdhury, who's the director of CARE, right? Or a director of one of the chairs.
The Maryland chapter of CARE, yes.
The Maryland chapter of CARE, thank you. So she was temporarily suspended from the State Commission on Hate Crime Response and Prevention over Facebook posts that compared Israel to Nazi Germany. And because she called people who attended a March for Israel genocide sympathizers. Now, I would make that same comparison and call people who do that the same thing. So in response to those statements, Attar introduced legislation to have Chowdhury removed from the commission, which is
yeah. So real quick on that.
Yeah.
So CARE had a permanent seat on the position. So again, these folks are very intelligent about not appearing to be as heavy-handed as they are. So they said, you can have like a Muslim seat, but just remove CARE's specific seat. Because in her testimony, she said that when I hear CARE, I get afraid because their rhetoric feels violent to me. And again, this notion of state violence being normalized. But the resistance to state violence being unacceptable, I think, is very much Zionist logic. So similarly, she introduced a bill this last session. We legalized cannabis. So we made some intent to distribute charges misdemeanors because people are literally becoming millionaires distributing cannabis legally. And she actually reintroduced a bill that would make certain cannabis intent to distribute charges like felonies with mandatory minimums, arguing that it's the drug dealers that drive the violence in our communities. So she also had a bill that supported this big bill a couple of years ago that rolled back some of the youth justice reforms that we had made previously, allowing people as young as 13 years old to be charged as adults, sort of limiting the protections for youth that that Senator Carter especially had enshrined, because his theory was, again, that she was this hug-a-sug progressive liberal and that youth violence had gotten out of control. And again, I think that a lot of people in the Black community are still supporting Dalia Attar. And when we talk to them, they say things like, she has very powerful people in like the philanthropic community. And I, as a Black person, feel like I need those resources. So there's this notion that Black folks are like too conservative or don't care about Zionism. That hasn't been my recognition of what's happening. I think that they are so afraid to buck political machines because they feel that their communities are so under attack that they're willing to back incumbents that they think have juice for people that can give them resources. So our argument has been support Malcolm because Malcolm has introduced bills that like tax Hopkins and put some of Hopkins' endowment in community-based institutions, including deals to do things like violence prevention. So we don't need to turn to the police. So when Black folks see people deliver concretely for their communities, that gives them a sense of confidence. They don't have to go with the establishment candidate who is often the Zionist candidate. And I think that's the kind of conversation we want to have with the left, because a lot of times they just assume Black folks are conservative, that they'll just back the machine candidate. And I think for us, it's like when they see someone deliver for them consistently, that's going to allow them to be more bold in terms of feeling like they can control the resources that person's going to deliver directly to them. So I think that this larger conversation about Black folks and the Black community and Zionism, this local race is a good example of us trying to challenge this false notion that Black folks are too conservative or don't care about Zionism.
Right. And so can you talk a little bit about the way that Zionism or various Zionist institutions and organizations try to make inroads in the Black community?
Yeah. I mean, again, this isn't abstract. Howard Freeman's wife, like, was hosting dinners, like, with the Black community, like, right after COVID, like, trying to basically, there are these informal pipelines that many people know. Elijah Cummings. Elijah Cummings is the former 7th District of Maryland congressperson. He would take people to Israel, right? And he would argue, like, I feel like I'm trying to do good stuff for the Black community, but they have so much money that I can't raise in the Black community that, yes, I will engage the Zionists strategically to try to get resources for my community. And say what you will about the failure of that strategy, a lot of people see that as the only thing that has worked. So again, not these very same people, like literally the exact same people supporting Dahlia, are the type of people that have selected certain forms of Black political leadership to inoculate themselves from this criticism and to carry out their agenda so they don't have to do it themselves, because they know it looks kind of weird to have a 65% Black district and have the Orthodox Jewish person be the senator. So when she moved up to the Senate, then the State Central Committee had to replace her in the House of Delegates. And they actually picked a Black Muslim. And so, but the Black Muslim got selected with largely votes from the Orthodox Jewish State Central Committee people. So that's the games that people play. And we've actually had to be very critical of this person, who we think is a good person, but how you get the seat determines how you can operate in that political space. So he's actually supporting Dahlia Attar, right? So it's very, complicated, but it's also very simple, where your Black politicians feel, if I just get the seat, I can get those resources back to my community. But we know that how you get the seat determines how you can govern in that seat. And it's not any not caring about Zionism. It's just a desperation to get some resources to our community. And what we found out is, like, these very same people who are supporting Dahlia Attar, they do not like Black people doing grassroots violence prevention. One of the stated things that even the Black Muslim Brothers supports, because that's seen as a threat to police. So even when you try to play the game with the, again, Zionist political machine, the resources you want to get, you probably aren't getting them the way you think. So that's part of what we're trying to tell people on the ground when they think they have to support the political machine candidate to get those resources. Like, no, it actually works the other way around. We need to have a challenge to the political machine so we can control those resources. And we're trying to get the left to come with us to support those sort of campaigns so we can have more juice to support that type of redistribution.
Right. And also, can you tell us a little bit about Hatzalah? And the connection. I mean, I know that, like, Dahlia Attar sponsored a bill that was allowing Hatzalah volunteers' personal vehicles to use emergency lights.
Oh, yes. So I believe
Hatzalah it's like a I don't even know, actually. They are a
internal community medical response.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Shamreem is the neighborhood watch, and Shamreem actually got a free SUV from the former Baltimore mayor, right? And I believe Hatzalah got an ambulance from this investment. So again, in some ways, respect. Like, you have your own community, you want to build up your own parallel institutions, you want to use public dollars to do that. I want to do that for the Black community, right? And I think that's a lot of what this is about. So when Black people do it, we're accused of corruption. When Black people do it, we're saying that is the mayor doing the homie hookup and it's corruption. But when this community does it, it's just recognition of the great work they do supporting the first responders on the ground, right? And again, this very Shamreem institution is one that has been seen as doing harassment of Black youth historically, with a very bad incident about 10 years ago, where they actually broke the kid's arm and things like that. But they have an SUV from the city government, and they have access to state resources, and they're looking literally to build a surveillance apparatus where they can build digital video security cameras all over the community and then plug that into the police security network. So that's a stated goal of the Shamri, right? And they want to get public dollars to build that out. So again, this very same logic of we are under attack, our communities have to be safe, that comes from like these enclaves in Israel, is being brought into America to build up the policing apparatus. They want to plug directly into the BPD. So when you think about police brutality, there was an incident where a BPD officer actually tried to run over a guy, and that was caught on camera, like chasing him like something out of Looney Tunes. That was in Park Heights. And again, for us, that's not an accident. It's the same logic of racialized social control and racialized policing that's tied to this obsession with the only way to get security is through violence and racialized social control, as opposed to giving resources to the indigenous community so they have what they need so that we can deal with the issues ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's fascinating, and it is an insane story. I'm really surprised it hasn't gotten more attention. Maybe because it's so local. I don't know, but you'd think that.
Yeah, I think it doesn't fit the narrative. I think that's part of our frustration is that if this was a Black elected official, you certainly would have heard about it.
Right.
Right. Now, part of it, obviously, they have ties to Sinclair Media and very, very powerful backers. But I just think that the narrative of this, young, attractive white woman, it almost feels very personal.
Yeah.
But it also is some belief that this aide may have talked about straw donations, like illegal straw donations going to Delegate Attar. But again, from what I saw in the actual indictment, it was really concerned about accusing Attar of, again, not being pro-police enough. So I think it's one of those things where, state politics is like this incredibly important space that we don't talk about enough. So I think in general, most people don't know what state politics is, so it doesn't even register to them. And that's not like, they don't have the video. That's one thing. They're trying to see if they can find the video, so they don't actually have it. But I think that's not like a big bag of cash in the freezer. Right. The smoking gun is these text messages, which feel salacious, but it's still an accusation at this point. But again, if this were a Black elected official, again, I think that the narrative will be very different.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lawrence, and thank you for everything you guys do at LBS. And come back on the show and give us more updates.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great night. Okay, that was really fascinating, important story that's not getting a lot of attention. And we are going to bring another guest on, and we are really honored to have her joining the show. She is an award-winning filmmaker, poet, playwright, and she is also someone who participated twice in the Global Samud Flotilla attempting to break the siege in Gaza. So we are really honored to bring onto the show Juliet Lamont. Welcome to the show, Juliet. Hi. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can't hear you at all, so I don't know what's happening.
1 second. Brad, can you maybe call the person?
Juliet. I will
Yeah.
call you.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, before I couldn't, but now I can.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's weird. So that's great.
All right. Well, Katie will be thrilled that Katie
hi.
Apparently
Hi.
you being here was the problem
Oh, great.
because when
Well,
you
can
left.
she hear me now? Because sometimes this happens. You can?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great.
That's
Okay,
fantastic.
perfect. Great. Thank you so much. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Okay. So Brad, can you just update the person I texted and tell her it's all good because I was doing okay, perfect. So thank you so much, Juliet, for coming onto the show. And I'm very sorry for what happened to you and other participants in the flotilla. And as you and others have acknowledged, this does really sadly pale in comparison to what happens to Palestinians every day. But tell us about why you went on this flotilla and what happened to you. And then I have lots of other questions for you about like the relationship between Australia and Israel, which is something people don't know about. But
I mean, I suppose first and foremost, I am the mother of two daughters. They're in their mid-20s. And, just thinking that there are babies that are being deliberately starved as an act of genocide, it just sort of confronts every part of my humanity. And because our governments are doing absolutely nothing and are so complicit in the weapons trade, I just felt like it was my moral duty to go there and to use my privileged passport Yeah, and do everything that I could to shine a light on the atrocities and, and try and help to end it. So yeah, it was about being a human being, and I'm really yeah, I'm just kind of shocked that more people aren't up in arms about it, really.
Right. Yeah. And so tell us about what happened to you. What the flotilla was like, why you decided to do it twice, right? Because you had done it before.
Yeah.
What made you do it despite the fact that you knew of the risks, and tell us about what happened to you once the flotilla was intercepted and you were kidnapped in international waters by the IOF.
I mean, the last flotilla, I think that I'd experienced kind of like the best of humanity. I met people from all around the world who cared, who had a common goal. We all learned how to fix boats and how to sail boats. And so there was something about this kind of mirroring of how society could be. So, on a very selfish level, it was the most incredible thing that I'd ever done. I did not anticipate the escalated violence. I didn't think that I would be raped. I didn't think that I would be tortured. It was terrifying. The second flotilla was absolutely terrifying from the get-go. It just felt like there was a directive from the top that the soldiers were allowed to do whatever they wanted with us. Potentially not kill us. I'm really surprised that there wasn't fatalities. People were beaten so badly, and a lot of them were people, like 70 plus. We had people who were lecturers and doctors and teachers, and yeah, their broken bones and the amount that they were bleeding, and the lack of water and food. Yeah, it's a miracle that nobody died on that mission. Yeah, and it's really awful to say, if somebody had, would our governments listen more? That thing about white bodies having more value than brown bodies, which is so racist, but it's so true. So I suppose a lot of the strategy of going on the flotilla is putting ourselves in harm's way deliberately to amplify what's happening to Palestinians every single day. But yeah, that's not to say that I wasn't petrified the entire time. My daughter was with me. That was like the worst bit because, yeah, just the idea that those sorts of things, as must happen to every Palestinian family, that happens to your own children is, yeah, heartbreaking and yeah, shocking to the core.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I mean, I've also seen well, I'll ask you, I don't even know if I wanted to dignify this, but there's been the response to you and to others who have participated in this there's been a lot of disgusting, toxic responses and a lot of victim blaming. And we see again, the parallels are there. They're not comparable, but it's almost like, why didn't you leave Gaza? Palestinian person, like that's on you, and like, so why did you take part in this flotilla? Palestinian solidarity activist, that's on you. Or how could you, if it was so bad, why would you have gone again with your daughter? I mean, the exact opposite takeaway that it should be. And there's there's a real inversion also. We've said, I mean, we talk about this all the time about how there's the people who commit the documented rapes. That's never covered by the media. Like the Stay Timon rape, we saw on video. No one mentions it in corporate media, but then you have a whole media narrative about a Hamas mass rape that actually didn't happen. So but please.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it just goes back to that sort of patriarchal misogyny where they say, oh, well, you were wearing the short skirt, you were wearing the lipstick, you decided to walk down, through that park at night, you deserve to be raped. It's the same thing. And, like culturally and historically, women have always been blamed for, the enacted violence that men will inflict on their bodies. And if you want to do a sliding scale of, who has, does a white woman have more sort of power and respect than a Palestinian woman? Absolutely. But still, it's been really difficult. It's not like I have a pretty thick skin, but after being raped and tortured in occupied Palestine by numerous Israeli occupation forces, to come back and then have men in the media say that it's not true. Where are my bruises? Show my rape assault kit on national TV when I've just gotten home. You know, and the trolls, like you try not to engage with it,
Right.
but sorry, I just have to turn this off. You try not to engage with it, but like when you actually look at the men that are doing this, the things that they're saying are, this is your rape fantasy. If you brushed your hair a bit more, if you looked a bit more feminine, I might believe that you would get raped. Go to Gaza, the Arabs will rape
Oh
you.
yeah.
You know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's just like it's just relentless, and it would be nice to be immune to it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I had some naive idea that when I came back to this country, there might be a level of support or belief. Sorry about this. Yeah, but you know, there isn't, and you know,
Yeah.
yeah, but you know, you just got to hold your head high. I have got the all the reports that they want to see now. I can tell if they want to be on me on live TV and actually show pictures, X-rays and show DNA swabs if they want all of that graphic, disgusting, sensationalized television. Yeah, I will do that. But yeah, it's just a crying shame that that we're not believed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, how many examples of like Israeli authorities do we have to see of violence, sexual abuse, and also lying? A combination of
Yeah,
lying, but also saying it out loud. I mean, how many of these things have to happen before people
yeah,
will not try to do the what they're doing now with the victim blaming and the doubting? Um,
yeah.
it's disgusting. And I wanted to ask you again, you don't have no pressure to share
Mm.
any of these things, but to the extent that you're comfortable, what happened to you or what your daughter reported had happened to her in terms of some kind of injections and apparently other
Yeah.
people who participated had this happen to them also?
Yeah, well, I immediately knew I was in trouble because they called me by my name and they weren't doing that to the other people in our boat. So I had that real sinking feeling of like, oh no, they know that I was on the last flotilla. This probably means that I'm going to get, they're going to punish me more. As soon as I was dragged onto the prison boat, I was cable tied behind my back. They put handcuffs, kind of ankle shackles onto my legs. I was thrown down onto deck, and then they kind of waterboarded me with a lot of water every time I tried to move away from the water. And I remember thinking to like a year 7 science class that said like you actually can drown in a teaspoon of water, but I was trying to tell myself, Juliet, you're not drowning. But I was ingesting so much water that I thought I actually thought that I was going to die. I'd only been on that boat for 20 minutes. Getting stood on by balaclavaed men. The first thing they said was, "Welcome to Israel, Juliet. You're going to really enjoy this." So that was kind of like the doctrine, the mantra, the big statement, which was enacted, and they meant it, and I experienced it. I was dragged into what we sort of have ended up calling a torture chamber. It was a shipping container. There was like 5 men in there, huge, muscly, like, yeah, I mean, like the beefiest sort of testosterone-filled monsters, but they've got the balaclavas on, which is kind of even more sinister. You're always held. They do this sort of pressure chokehold on the back of your neck, and your head is forced down pretty much to about knee height, with ankle shackles on, with cable ties. I was thrown into this darkened shipping container, bashed, jostled, sworn at. My trousers were wrenched down, my underwear was wrenched down, and I was vaginally raped from behind. People have discredited me because I said I think it was a fist. I don't know if it was a gun. I don't think it was a gun. I heard later that most of the men had guns inserted into their rectums. And people have started to say, what woman wouldn't know if it was a hand or a penis? But it's like, I'm telling you, if you're getting that much aggression and noise and it's coming at you from everywhere, and you cannot see, Yeah, I mean, I'd sort of, I'd ask anybody to be able, in that state of trauma and hypervigilance and disassociation also, to
Right.
be able to know exactly. So then I was punched in the face, and then I was thrown out onto the open air deck that was the prison boat. We all had wristbands. I was number 83. My daughter ran up to me, Isla. That was like, yeah, I mean, it was just really glad that she was there. The first thing that I asked was like, did they do that to you? And she said no, like she said they'd syringed me, mum, with something in the chest in that torture chamber, and they hit me, but they didn't pull my pants down. They didn't do any of that degradation. So that was a relief. Absolutely. But the next part of that process was watching every single person through this howling chamber of pain, and them getting thrown off these metal walls, and then after a certain amount of time just getting thrown out. Most of the men had their underwear down and their pants around their ankles. Some people had been tasered in the face, which was obvious. There were broken bones, people were bleeding from the mouth, and it just became like this kind of floating war zone where thankfully we had 4 medics, and one of them was the president of Ireland's sister.
Oh yeah, Margaret. She's a friend.
Amazing.
She's an amazing woman. So beautiful. She's an amazing person.
So she created a triage system. One of the shipping containers just became a hospital, a makeshift hospital. We made slings out of plastic that was covering that was like rubbish bags. And that was 2.5 days of no sleep, because anytime anybody slept, they would again flush the communal area with about a foot of water, so nobody could sleep. There wasn't enough room for us to sleep in the shipping containers, so we'd take turns and people standing and people huddling. They'd take in our sailing gear and our shoes, and because we'd gotten so soaked with water, as the initial kind of welcome to Israel prison torture thing, we were all freezing cold. Hypothermia was an issue for some of the older people. They would shine really bright lights through the one door of the shipping containers with a kind of strobe effect, so that sleep was impossible. They were constantly using their guns on the side of the shipping containers, so that we couldn't sleep. Regularly, we'd be hauled out of the shipping containers, told to stand behind the black line, an American accent. It felt like the main soldier was maybe on the birthright tour. He had an American accent, and it was just like, I'm going to kill someone today. Shut the fuck up, get your head down, get behind the black line, which ended up being a really difficult process because there was about 180 of us on that shipping on that prison boat. So 2 meters deep by 4 meters wide is a lot for 180 people. I'd always put Isla to the back. She's got long blonde hair. I was always trying to get her hair in a bun, kind of desexualize her so she wasn't dragged out. And they shot rubber bullets at us. They, at a really, I don't know, 5 meters, shattered people's bones with rubber bullets. They can be lethal if they're shot at that closely. Stun grenades. They shot things that were so audibly searing that there was a lot of ear injuries when we were finally taken to a hospital in Turkey. It felt like it was a top-down decision to dehumanize us, to break our spirit, to do everything that they possibly could so that we wouldn't come back on the flotilla. And I mean, they did a really good job. But then I also, and this is the thing that I think that the Israeli regime, they obviously get it wrong with Palestine, but the more that you inflict pain and torture and rape as a genocidal weapon on a people, the more the resistance is stronger. And I can tell you now that the 430 people that went on that flotilla would go back in a heartbeat if they thought that it would change things. So their whole idea that you just that you oppress people, that you break their bones, that you kill them, that will eventually erase them, and that you are the victor, they've completely gotten it wrong, because love and solidarity and community is so much more powerful than all of their violence. And it's just bizarre to me that they don't have, enough people. They spend billions of dollars on their propaganda machine. Why the hell haven't they worked out that simple human thing,
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot, and it will take a while to process, but I think it's really important, even though there's a lot of naysayers and there's a lot of victim shaming. I think it's really important to keep telling the story, really.
Yeah. And by the way, there's a lot of positive things in the chat. Remember, lots of times the chats attract the most vile people. Those are the ones who take the time out to comment. And also when the people hear that you're here, the people who have issues with like women and will comment, and they're the people who don't usually watch the show, but you should know, I'll send you screenshots later, that a lot of people are thanking you for your being brave and speaking out. So you do.
Yeah, Juliet, I'm sorry to jump back on again. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say I am in complete awe of you, and thank you so much. And everyone that I'm seeing in the chat is equally in awe of your strength, and that I just don't have the words. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I don't feel very strong. I just feel like I don't have a choice, really, because we're just being betrayed and let down by our leaders, and that's not a democracy. So when you look, historically back at social change, it's always just been ordinary people who have put themselves on the front line, and that's not because we're legendary or because we're heroic. It's just because we actually, care, and it's kind of is our moral duty to stand up for the most vulnerable people on the planet. So it's a thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interject.
No. Thank you, Brad. And speaking of betrayed, I mean, what have the leaders of Australia done in response to this? What were they doing when they heard about this? And since you've been back, I believe that they've refused to meet with you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we have been refused an audience with the Prime Minister, but I'm flying after this. I just have to jump in. I can't get to the airport because we're having a press conference at Parliament House, and we are going to demand, the survivors of the flotilla are demanding a meeting, and I really feel like, and if he doesn't do that, we will go into the parliamentary chambers. There is a Greens politician who is going to ask Prime Minister Albanese to look at us in the eye and also deny us that meeting, and I know that will be a really powerful moment. I think that his hand will be forced, and he will have to listen to our testimony, and then we're going to have to talk about sanctions. Other countries are doing it individually with, I think, with the, a few of the Israel, like Ben Gvir, what he's not allowed to go somewhere, and what's that mean? He's been, they need to, and the fact that Ben Gvir has been, he's the bad egg. He is not. Exactly. He is illustrative of the entire Zionist regime.
Right.
He's really easy to scapegoat, but it's much deeper than that.
Right. They make him the rotating villain. Like Netanyahu criticized him for what? For carrying out your same agenda. I mean, it's ridiculous. And you saw him there, right? When you were there, you saw him.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him twice. I saw him on the first flotilla when we were in an open air prison cage in Kesiot. He was calling us baby killers, Jew haters, Arab lovers, and then he said something like, "I'm going to gas you," which is like to flip the narrative of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, they really need some more PR advisors, because it just seems so insane, the things that they say. And, we do think that while we were there for 6.5 days on the first flotilla, at 8 o'clock every night, because we, the women were a lot more audible than the men. It sounds like we were singing Bella Ciao and resistance songs, and this might be offensive to some people because they didn't give us sanitary products. Women wrote, Free Palestine and menstrual blood on the cells, even though they knew that they'd get tortured more. But at 8 o'clock every night on that first flotilla, we could smell this kind of like, it was like ammonia and hay and kind of, and kind of like, some sort of like fish smell. And then we'd all be asleep for 2 hours. And I am an insomniac and I never sleep. So I do feel like his threat of gassing us was actually true. I do think they were gassing us on the first flotilla to shut us up. Yeah, and I was in the background when my friend, my Irish friend Kat, was the
Okay,
woman.
Cat Graham.
You
Yeah,
know, yeah, and when you look at that, I was thinking, wow, like that's kind of nothing compared to what happened. But there was also footage that they cut in where we were in that stress position. So I suppose to the to the normal population that looks horrific, but I mean that was a drop in the ocean compared to what was actually happening to us.
right.
But yeah, I mean Ben Gvir, how arrogant and how much hubris does the man have that he would boast and even post that?
Right. Yeah. And I'm sorry to ask about this, but what do you know from your daughter, from others? Because apparently it was not
Yeah.
just your daughter who reported being syringed with something. What was their experience after they were syringed with whatever they were syringed with?
Well, one of my friends, Louise, who's another comrade from Ireland, she had concussion and she was unconscious. And so we decided, well, the medics decided that we would put her at the front of the kind of torture chamber, make lots of noise and demand for some, medical help. She disappeared. We probably think, it was a bad decision. She disappeared for half a day. She said that she was syringed with an unknown substance in a room, that she felt really tranquilized, and then 5 Israeli soldiers came in to rape her while she was in that catatonic state. And thankfully, and it's probably the only good story that's come out of my experience with the Israelis, is that a woman soldier came in and chastised the men and said, "This is not happening on my watch." And so she protected Kat from being raped. So yeah, I think it was a sedative. I think, Isla's she got tests in Turkey. We're still waiting for the blood test results, and she's had tests in Sydney. But, as much as the media says that we're lying, it's like a 30-day.
Yeah,
It's
of course. Yeah.
it takes ages. They don't just give you the thing,
Yeah,
the
of course.
magic bottle going, But yeah, so we're waiting to find out what that was.
Wow. And did other
Yeah.
people experience what you experienced, that smell and then falling asleep right away? Or is that something that
Yeah.
like
No,
you
no,
yourself
no.
thought of, or other
Yeah,
people?
no. Everyone in my cell experienced exactly the same thing, and we talked because there was 13 cells in the first flotilla, and we'd be able to talk. We'd say flotilla, flotilla. This is cell 1, and you could pass it down, and then you could get 13 lots of voices could pass it back, and it seemed like it was a common experience from that first year. From I think we're in prison October the 1st last year. Yeah, that was something that was used against all of the women because we were too noisy. Yeah.
Well, I know that you have to leave soon for the airport. I have questions for you about the relationship between Australia and Israel,
Yeah.
settler colonialism in Australia, but I also just want to give you the chance to say whatever you want in the last few minutes that you have with us before you leave.
Yeah, well, I suppose just that, you realize the power of people banding together and acting with love and the direct action. As a lot of people say it's performative and symbolic, and there wasn't aid. There was aid, but like when you look back at social change, what protest hasn't had an element of performatism?
Yeah.
I mean, the suffragettes, the civil rights, the freedom buses. There is a level of kind of theatricality and symbolism that goes with all of it. We're non-violent. We're not going to go there with guns. We're not an armed
Right.
resistance. So that is one thing that I would like to say. And the other thing is that as a white woman living on the stolen land of First Nations people here, the blood-soaked land and ongoing genocide, I think that I felt even more morally obligated to go and help other people who are going through a really similar thing, because we get to live here kind of not guilt-free, but yeah, I think it's your moral duty to use your privilege to
Right.
do the right thing, and and to help, and more people can do it. It's not that hard.
And can you just briefly tell us about the relationship between Australia and Israel and those governments? Because a lot of people know about how close the U.S. is with Israel, the UK.
Yeah.
What about Australia?
Well, we have a two-way arms trade system, and we make integral. We're in the global supply chain that make integral parts, like the only parts for the F-35 fighter jet program, and they are the planes that drop 2,000-pound bombs on innocent Palestinians. So without the parts that we made in Australia, those bombs would not drop. So we are directly arming Israel, and we are very much complicit in the genocide in occupied Palestine. So that is another thing where that needs to stop. You know, we need to stop making these parts. And that will be a lot of a lot of the advocacy and a lot of the demands when we meet Albanese today, hopefully.
Wow. Yeah.
Would be amazing.
Well, thank you so much for your strength. I'm going to send you screenshots of the nice things that people have said, because obviously, not that you're making this about yourself. This is about something much larger than any individual, and that's clear. I'm just saying that I also know that it's not to be discounted how vulnerable you feel, and how when you're speaking out against something like this, and people kind of traumatize you. It's challenging. So
I mean, and I do think what's sad about it is a lot of the men particularly won't come forward because they can see the treatment that happens, and it's almost like, well, for a woman, it's almost like you spoiled goods, or you kind of know no one would ever want to think about you like there's a lot of baggage around being open about having been sexually assaulted, and I do really fear for the mental health of a lot of the men that I know were raped on that boat, but they just will not come forward
because the stigma around
it,
yeah,
which is really sad, but also really understandable,
right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you've done, everything that you continue to do. I'm really moved by what you're doing, and also moved by how you're refusing to back down and not be silenced. And, this is not comparable at all. I just do want to say I was in Cuba. I'm part of this convoy to Cuba, and it was like so not comparable to what you went through. But I just want to say, when a bunch of us went back, we got pulled aside and questioned. It was nothing. But even then, I remember being like, oh my God, I'm so much more afraid than I ever would have anticipated. Like, I'm a white US citizen. I'm being asked about my immigration status. And I have a family no one in my family is undocumented. I don't have vulnerable in that way, my partner or family members. And I was really scared shitless. And I often think about that, because I know how much scarier it is for others to do things that are way scarier. So I just have, a lot of empathy for you. And of course, you have empathy for people who've gone through stuff that makes your experience sadly pale in comparison. It's not a competition, but it's important to thread those, I think.
No, absolutely. And those tactics work. They're petrifying.
Yes, they do. Right. They do. I definitely, and I'm an assertive, confident person. I never would have predicted that I would have been like, So
no, totally.
Yeah,
Understand. Sorry that happened to you. Sorry.
But thank you so much, and come back on the show. We would love an update, and thank you. And we can talk about all the other great work that you do in protest and filmmaking. After we stop the genocide, we'll get to that.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, it's a deal. All right, well, lovely to talk to you. Thanks.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye, Juliet. Okay, that was amazing. Wow. What an honor. And Brad, we are going to spend at the very end of the show, we're going to read some of those, the positive chats, because I think it's important for people to hear that, and also for her to see that, but also to bring us together, since there's some disgusting people who have come into the chat, and we're going to show the world what this chat really is about. Okay. So speaking of, I don't know, how do I segue? Another really brave, inspiring person. I'll just say that, and assertive. We're going to bring on to the chat an amazing journalist. All these guests tonight, I have to give their mini bios, because I'd be here all night if I didn't. But she is a multi-award winning journalist, producer, and broadcaster. She was for nearly a decade a producer at the CBC. And she is the host and producer of On the Line Media, and also a genocide scholar and an actor, a Shakespearean trained actor, something insane like that. So welcome back to the show, Samira. Hi. You're muted.
Story of my life.
What? Oh, being muted?
You're muted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ended your story.
Yes. Well, thank you, Samira. That must have been intense for you.
Oh my God,
right?
listening to her was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And just the strength in her vulnerability was
Yeah.
wild. And to hear her talking about how relieved she was that her daughter,
I know. I started.
you didn't have
Yeah.
to go through that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
I know.
just, can you imagine? And I kept thinking about this all the time when we watch these images of Ben Gvir gloating and walking around, what they're doing to Palestinians.
Yeah, exactly.
Stores. I
And
mean,
we
we
don't
don't
hear
need to imagine. We have the testimonies,
Right.
but
Right.
just absolutely vile.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And it really is. We live in like such an inverted world where the people who pay a price are the people who oppose genocide and not the people inflicting it. Yeah. And again, like I know where the people who are the actual rapists either get celebrated like they do in Israeli media and Israeli society, or here the Western media ignores them, pretends that that doesn't happen, but focuses on these non-existent mass rape narratives that have been debunked. And Dana Bash has never, corrected herself. Jake Tapper has never corrected himself. In fact, we're going to watch a clip tonight with another CNN journalist who has never corrected herself. Maybe this wasn't the order I planned it in, but since we're talking about the media, I wonder if we should start off with, friend of the show, Jesse Brown.
Oh,
of Canadaland.
Or Village Idiot here in Canada.
Village Idiot,
Yes.
yeah.
Show him.
Yeah, okay. So we have first tell us a little bit about Jesse Brown, because he's not as well known on this side of the pond. But we are going to show a clip of Jesse Brown on CNN. This would be clip which one is this? Nate, did we give that one to Brad? It's the Jesse.
No, you just gave me a screenshot, Katie.
Oh, hold on one second.
But I can find it if you just give me a minute.
Yeah, we wanted this link in there. I
Yeah,
thought.
just give me a minute. I'll get it.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So tell us about Jesse Brown and who he is, and then we'll show this.
Jesse Brown is the publisher of something called Canadaland. So this was supposed to be a podcast that has an eye on the media, sort of looks at and deconstructs how Canadian media does what it does. But since October 7th, Jesse Brown has turned into this sort of, he's entered his Orson Welles years, and he's turned into a rabid Zionist. He actually took the stage with Ben Shapiro last week here in Toronto.
Doesn't he pretend to be a liberal Zionist and not a fascist Zionist?
Yeah, he pretends. He pretended for many years to be progressive.
Right.
But even before October 7th, there were some murmurings about, who this guy really was. And he made a lot of money making widgets or some sort of, I don't know what it is, some tech crap, plastic. I don't know. I actually don't know what it is. But it's some knob or something. And then, has just become a very vile individual.
Yeah.
And still purports to be very level-headed and rational and, whatever. And he is really one of the big pushers of this whole, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism and Jew hatred is running wild. And, it would make Jesse really happy to see a sort of Bondi Beach attack happen here in Canada. He's just pining for it with every single day that passes. So that's basically who Jesse Brown has become.
Okay. Yeah. So let's take a look at him. Here he is on CNN. And what's interesting actually is that one of the women, the journalist that he speaks to right now, is actually one of the women who we've seen kind of time and time again talk about the rape that actually didn't happen.
Yeah. She's brutal, actually. I looked a little bit into her. She has some nice ties to the IDF, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah, she's from Romania. Is she from Romania? No, not Romania. Where is she from? Anyway, we'll get it. We'll get into that at some point. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
You touched on something that I think I would love for you to expand on. This idea that, you sort of feel it's particularly acute in Canada, especially. Talk to us about the dynamics at play that make Canada ripe for something like this.
Thank you for that question. I think it's surprising to a lot of people because Canada is associated with politeness and kindness and These are the values that I think every Canadian values, holds very dear, is that we're a pluralistic, multicultural society where people generally have lived harmoniously together. So it is surprising to see that Canada become one of the worst countries in the world when it comes to this post-October 7th spike in anti-Jewish hate. There are many factors. I think that you can't ignore the fact that we have tripled our Muslim population in just about 20 years. By and large, Muslims have lived in Canada just as Jews, harmoniously and without incident, up until this post-October 7th era.
Without incident.
The fact of the matter is, and it's an uncomfortable topic for some, we are bringing in people from countries where hatred of Jews is taught in schools. And unlike other countries, there's very little done when people come to Canada to educate and naturalize them to say, this is not how we do things here.
Naturalize the language.
Wow. So, I mean, he just says it out loud. So why is there more alleged anti-Semitism?
Because I remember this. The fact that he says they lived here without incident is absolute bullshit.
Right.
Canada leads G7 countries in anti-Muslim motivated murders. We've had people, this happened in Quebec, a young guy under the age of 19 walked into a mosque and killed 6 men as they were praying. After that, a family of 5 walking down the streets of London, Ontario. This is just outside of small town, like not a huge place, but still, the guy ran over a visibly Muslim family, and he was known to be hate. It was hate motivated, but you don't see this type of rhetoric from anybody. There have been no Jewish murders in Canada.
Right.
Okay. And none of that has happened. And yet our government here is launching these huge councils, having these massive, commissions and parliamentary Senate committees and all of this stuff on anti-Semitism. And what are those figures about? It is about someone on campus saying, I felt uncomfortable when I saw a keffiyeh.
Right. Yeah.
The majority of these incidents are about Jewish people feeling uncomfortable because they want to feel comfortable when they support a genocide.
Right.
Don't want to feel icky about Israel.
Right. And it's never the Jews who feel uncomfortable with genocide. Their feelings don't get talked about, right? Like your Jewish friends in Canada who are anti-Zionists, no one in the government cares about their feelings, right? When they get called. First of all, I know that the point isn't Jewish feelings, but it's interesting that even within Jewish feelings, right? It's the feelings of certain types of Jews, right? Yeah.
Good Jew. Jesse does this all the time. This whole good Jew, bad Jew, good Muslim, bad Muslim. That's what that's his area that he works in.
But it's unreal that he actually, I was surprised. I'm like, you're just going to go out and say it, that the problem is more Muslims. That's why there's more anti-Semitism.
And
you're not
even going to
pay homage to how most Muslims are. I mean, he doesn't even do the ass covering.
No. And what's so amazing about this is also, it always reminds me of the sort of the mid-90s, the mid-90s Zionists, the mid-90s racists who would say things like, well, the Muslims, they have a higher birth rate and they just reproduce like rabbits, we lose. And you've heard this, even today, you hear people saying this. Right. And what Jesse said really just harkens back to that type of rhetoric about Muslims being uneducated. The word that he uses, naturalized. We don't use this language here in Canada. Naturalized. We don't call immigrants aliens. I mean, he is a really disgusting person, and I hope he's listening to this. You're disgusting. And the fact that he wrote this piece in the Atlantic called "Polite Pogrom," I mean, the guy is just spewing bilge. At every opportunity. And it's no wonder he ends up on CNN because nobody would put him on the air here. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you tweeted at him. Let's take a look at what you tweeted. Okay. So you tweeted, "You're a bigoted, xenophobic piece of shit. First, Jesse tweets out, what I told CNN and Biana, let me make this bigger. Apologies. Biana Golodriga, who's from Moldova, by the way, and Zane Asher. Mark Carney has failed to meet the moment." Okay, so Jesse tweets out, what I told CNN, Mark Carney has failed to meet the moment. Samira, you tweet back, "You're a bigoted, xenophobic piece of shit. I don't know how anyone can work Canada land and look themselves in the mirror.
Look at his response.
And then he writes, stop attacking Jews. Okay. So, yeah, Jesse, I mean, is that literally like if someone attacks me, do I get to say stop attacking women? Like, when is he going to stop attacking queer Iranian women like you? Right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
is that what you should?
Jesse was invited to speak in a synagogue, and half of his sermon was about me and what I'm doing online, and all these other Black and brown and indigenous journalists. That's who he goes after. Jesse rarely goes after men, you know.
Right. Yeah. But it's just like, so, okay, you want to play that game of the identity politics game? Fine. So why are you a misogynist? Oh, I was going to say Islamophobic, but he obviously is. So why are you a misogynist? I'm sure he doesn't want to be seen as a homophobic misogynist, right? No. So Jesse, why are you attacking queer women? Why are you silent?
Like, I don't come on and say, look at you attacking a queer Iranian woman. I don't play these games.
I know.
And that's, he goes right to stop attacking Jews because he can't actually deal with the meat of the matter.
Right, exactly.
He can't actually deal with the criticism because he knows that he sounds like a xenophobic troglodyte, which is exactly what he is.
Right, exactly. So he has to play the identity politics in a totally inconsistent way, right? Because again, if he wanted to play that game, then he would lose out a lot because unfortunately he's a white man. So by his own logic, he's attacking a woman, like you just can't, but and it also is like using all Jews as like human shield. Talk about human shields. Like, stop using us, Jesse. We are not like, you're not being attacked as a Jew. You're being attacked as a racist. Like this Jew over here says Samira is not attacking Jews. Samira is attacking you, and I'll attack you too. And it's not because I'm a self-loathing Jew. It's because I don't like racist bigots. So,
Katie, you were talking about inversion when you were talking about with Juliet Lamont, and it reminded me of the fact that this is Jesse's whole argument. He says Jewish people shouldn't be held accountable for what Israel does.
Right.
Everybody would agree with that.
Yeah.
However, Jesse also says all Jewish people are tied to Israel.
Right. Exactly.
And Israel is Judaism.
Right.
And Judaism is Israel. So which is it?
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't have it both ways.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's very disturbing. Well, I hope, Jesse, please come on the show. Feel free. Maybe you'll feel safer with another Jew in the space. I'm sure you'll feel like I have your back. But it is really insane to be someone working in the media today. You've been at this for a long time. What are some of the worst things that you think are happening right now when it comes to complicity and genocide? I mean, it's kind of where to even start, but I think the example of Jesse Brown is a great one. What has your blood boiling right now as we speak?
I mean, there are a lot of things that have stayed with me, particularly over the past 2.5 years. I remember distinctly, for instance, on the day that the ICJ gave their deliberation of plausible genocide, our national public broadcaster on the most widely listened morning radio show had Deborah Lipstadt on.
Oh my God.
And I remember the host saying to her, this deliberation was made about plausible genocide. What do you think that's going to mean for anti-Semitism? Really? Like, that's your question?
Right. Is it good
and
for the
course,
Jews?
He basically set up, he was like, okay, Deborah, I'm going to softball this to you and you're going to hit it out of the park. And your response is going to be, well, we're going to see anti-Semitism on the rise. This tying of criticizing Israel is going to see more anti-Semitism. And this is something that we have seen the media do ad nauseum. And it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is Deborah. What did she did something the other day where she was basically like putting targets on people's backs. What was it? Deborah Lipstadt. First of all, during like Purim or something, she read at the 92nd Street Y. She said something about how this is the holiday where we wipe them out. I'm like, why?
And that's the day that Israel started bombing Iran.
Yes, right. Why are you doing this? It's like you do want. I mean, these people really actually do want. I think they want anti-Semitism because they have to justify the existence of Israel. And if there isn't that, then they can't really.
It's unfortunate to say, but the rise of anti-Semitism or the purported rise of anti-Semitism and the way it's being spun at least here in Canada, means that more money is given to these organizations.
Right.
We have had a proliferation of newly sprung up fighting anti-Semitism organizations post October 7th. Many of them have already received charitable status. You know, it's very difficult to receive charitable status normally, but it seems that, you know, the Canada Revenue Agency is just handing out these things. And I liken it to, you know, if you are if you are a biological researcher, all you have to say is, I'm studying cancer, and you will get the funding that you need. Now you just have to say, oh, I'm putting a stop to anti-Semitism. Oh,
right.
Here's the money. And that's exactly what's happening in our country. Whereas you see, and those things I pointed out to you about the Muslims being shot, Muslims being run over, that's not even post October 7th. We've had people beat the shit out of by people yelling at them, get out of our country, you're ruining it. You know, Muslims are being beaten.
Right.
And we don't hear about it. We don't talk about rampant Islamophobia, rampant anti-Muslim hatred. That's not what is across our screens, right? Yes, I'm not saying that synagogues aren't being shot at or aren't being firebombed, but no one's getting hurt.
Right. Yeah. And again,
and I'm sorry, I'm not lamenting that. Now some asshole.
No, of course. Right.
And be like, well, she wants people to get hurt. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is actual Muslims are being murdered, and we're not seeing these massive parliamentary committees come together. In fact, what we did see when those 6 men were murdered in a mosque was a Canadian member of parliament try and push through an anti-Islamophobic act, and it was voted down.
That's really incredible. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it's just the fact that if people really cared about safety, if really people cared about bigotry, if people cared about keeping people safe, marginalized communities or safe, they would be up in arms when Muslims were killed and not just when synagogues were attacked.
You know, Jesse Brown says Mark Carney, so this is our prime minister in Canada, Mark Carney did not meet the moment. He's not the only one to say this. A lot of Zionist organizations and pro-Israeli groups in Canada were very critical of Carney. And the reason that they were critical of him is because they wanted Carney to say Muslims are the problem.
Right.
Because many of them came out and said this, right? And they wanted Carney to say that exact same thing. But that's not what Carney did. Carney came out and said, you know, transphobia is bad. Targeting any minority group is bad. You know, that sort of was his sentiment, but they didn't want that. That didn't appease their thirst for vilification of Muslims. That's what they want to see.
Right. Yeah. Well, should we turn a little bit? I mean, it's related, but should we talk about what's happening right now with Iran?
Oh yeah, I just as I was logging on, I saw that Iran, they bombed the Cheshma Islands, and Iran is now fighting back and attacking 2 U.S. bases in Kuwait.
Yeah,
so it's this weird ass. I mean, what does ceasefire even mean anymore?
Right. Yeah.
As we're seeing Lebanon and Gaza being bombed on a daily basis and people being killed. And right now, the U.S. is saying it's in negotiations, but it continues to bomb Iran. I'm sorry. You know that I'm very critical of Iran, Katie, but in this respect right now, over the past 2.5 years, the Iranians should be given an award for the patience that they have with trying to negotiate with the United States. It is a fucking ridiculous clown show. And they expect Iranians to keep coming to the table as they're being incessantly bombed.
Yeah, it is. It's really insane. And it's so funny because you see that Western media portrays the Iranian government as this theocratic, like bloodthirsty, fundamentalist, irrational. You just can't negotiate with them. You can't reason with them. And meanwhile, it's the United States government that is like lusting after wants Armageddon, right? You have like Pete Hegseth who wants Armageddon, right? Yeah. You have like Mike Johnson bringing a red heifer somewhere to fulfill some religious prophecy. And there's no diplomacy. There's no diplomacy coming from the United States. It's like the total inversion. It's literally like the opposite of what is being said.
We were watching, I think it was today that Marco Rubio, for the first time during this war, was brought before a Senate committee or a congressional committee. I don't know which it was, but one of the senators or Congress members said to him, what is the plan here? Like, what is the plan? You had Netanyahu say he's going to take over 70% of Gaza,
right.
And you're going on with this war that just seems endless. And he's like, well, that's not our plan. And she kept saying, well, what is the plan? What is the plan? And I just don't think there is any plan. I think this is what I think is that the US, the United States of Israel, did not get the result they wanted when they bombed Iran, and they thought that this was just going to be a cakewalk and regime change, and Iranians would just embrace them, and everything was going to go, the way they thought it would. And now that it hasn't, they really just don't know what to do right now. I really think that they are just in a fucked up quagmire where they're like, what do we do? And Iran has said right now that it's gonna start blockading again the Straits of Hormuz, and not just there. It's going to do the entirety of that area.
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of Marco Rubio, this is very exciting because now we have the chance to see this incredibly charismatic man in action. 1 second, let me just see. Here, let's hear what he had to say. Actually, it was today in testimony on Tuesday. It was the first time since the war of aggression against Iran began. Let's hear how he thinks it's going.
Today than they were 6 months ago when those protests were happening. They have hyperinflation. Their currency's completely devalued. They're struggling to make payroll for their government workers. Iran is in a very serious situation. And if it was up to the political class there, and I understand everybody there is sort of radical in some way, but if it was up to the people that actually go to elections and wear the suits and you see on TV, they'd probably make a deal tomorrow. It's the issue they're facing is that the supreme leader and the IRGC Corps are a little bit more immune from those pressures until they can be convinced otherwise. And I think that's the direction that they're moving in, because the reality, I don't know where you're getting this perception that Iran is stronger.
These people really have no understanding of the people they're at war with. I really, the Obama administration, when it was John Kerry and all of those people, they had an understanding of Iran's political class, Iran's political structure, in a way that this administration, I don't know who they're getting their information from, who is advising these people. They are wholly ignorant of the Iranian people, of the Iranian political structure, of Iran's political class. It is not about IRGC and, this clownish behavior that clerics run the entire country. They don't. Right. Iran has technocrats, and those technocrats do not want to go under the thumb of America either. It's not about the guys, wearing the suits and they would make a deal, except these guys don't let us. No, right. Most of the guys wearing the suits came up through the ranks of the IRGC. They fought in the Iran-Iraq war as teenagers, as young men, and they know who was supplying the chemical weapons that made their brothers, get gassed and die during that war. Right. It was the U.S. So this idea that somehow, there is no unity within Iran's political structure and it's falling apart. Look, Iranians are suffering big time because of sanctions, because of the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, who back in December said, I was told by Trump to decimate their dollar, and I did. And we're sitting here going, oh, how did this happen? You fucking made it happen. You fucking made the middle class disappear in Iran.
Yeah.
And they're boasting about it. They're boasting about it, and then they're purporting to care about the Iranian people. You know what, Katie? I have to make a real admission on your show.
If you're watching this live, you're so in luck because you got to see this whole thing. And if you're watching this later and you want to see the full thing with Samira, yeah, That's how you say in Farsi as opposed to in other languages. It's not Samira, it's Samir. Samiro. Then you can find that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. So if you're watching this live, you're in luck, and if you're watching later, support the show either way. Anyone watching, if you're not already a Patreon supporter, please do become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. You can do it for just $1 a month. That's literally $12 a year. And let's see who joined Patreon since our last stream, which was we streamed on Friday, right?
We've had a few.
Oh yeah, look at this. Oh wait, what's today's date? Today is what?
Today's second.
The 2nd? Oh, so the last when we streamed on Friday, right? Yes. What date was that?
Oh boy, that was the end of May. So what was that?
Right, but what was the exact date?
Oh, for crying out loud! Now you're exposing that I can't remember on the fly. How many days is it? 31?
Oh, I know. 30 days has September, April. 30 days has September, April, June,
that was
November.
the 29th.
Okay, so we got great. We got people on the 29th. Okay. So we got, thank you, Grant. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Aftab. Thank you, BC. Thank you, Vibha. Thank you, William. Thank you, Ms. T. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Martin D. And yeah, thanks a lot. Let's see, we getting one today. We got one today. We didn't get a single person since this one. That would be great.
I have such a stupid sense of humor, Katie. That one.
Thanks for notifying me, Brad. Yeah.
The one person who joined as you were reading it off, I'm like, I wonder if that person had a male partner. Would that person's name be Mr. T?
Oh, that is funny. I think.
You.
Yeah.
Probably the funniest part was like just the pause before you kind of like understood what I was saying, you know.
And by the way, I do want to give, I didn't pay enough attention to Katie. You are the best. Thank you. I didn't give enough attention to Brian. So thank you for that. And Carol, thank you for that.
And Miss T, please, I'm making a stupid joke. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you, Bejubly. And yeah, so we're going to have a great show. As always, we're going to have a show on Friday, which will be great. And if you want to see this full thing, you can at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Oh, wait, we may have something on Thursday. Let me see if this person can do Friday.
To be determined?
Yeah, to be determined.
Okay.
But definitely we'll make a post of it on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Phantom Fanta. Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Lawrence. And thank you, Juliet. Have a great night.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing.
Antifa!